Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Bright and sunny day in Buffalo. Other than the Sabres opening, their second round playoff chase, it's kind of gray and gloomy here, but we'll try to bring a little sunshine over the next couple hours. Pleased to chair this regular meeting of Finance Committee of NYPA and the Canal Corporation. With me today are all of my fellow committee members: Dennis Trainor, B. Gonzalez, Cecily Morris, Lewis Warren, Laurie Wheelock, Michael Cusick, Justin, Adam, and the staff are assembled in White Plains. Joe Kessler here with me, others dialing in from elsewhere. And as always, this meeting's been duly noticed as required by open meetings law. And with that, I'm very pleased to call the meeting to order. The agenda was circulated, and unless anyone has any proposed amendments or changes, I'd be pleased to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, thanks, Dennis and B. Lewis, Laurie can sort out the order there. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We've got our typical meeting agenda in terms of approvals and actions and initiatives that we'll get to in a little bit. But as we often do, we've also got some matters to discuss in exec session. Before we get on with our customary financial reports and other recommendations, I'd ask for a motion to conduct an executive session pursuant to Section 105 of the Public Officers Law.
So moved. Be in Syracuse.
Thanks, B in Syracuse. Second.
Second. Dennis, second, or Lewis.
All right, thank you very much. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We will adjourn to exec session. Be back in 45 minutes, no more than an hour. Thank you very much. All right, welcome back, everyone. I could ask for a motion to resume our meeting in open session.
So moved. Second.
All right, thanks, Dennis. Thank you, Lewis. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And as always, be assured no votes were taken during executive session. Before we get going, just reaffirmation, contractors list. Everyone had the opportunity to review and inform Felicia that of any potential conflicts or issues or concerns. If there's any update, please ensure you refresh that notification. Otherwise, I'll assume we're good to go. All right, let's pivot to our agenda as we typically do. We'll start with Adam giving his financial update. We then got a handful of actions and initiatives to come before us for potential recommendation to full board. But Adam, catch us up on first quarter and how financial results and operations are looking.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, trustees, I have colleagues and members of the public. So through the first quarter in March, we are back on track and slightly ahead of schedule. So our target. So we've rebounded from some of the issues we had in January with the curtailments out of Niagara, mostly offset by positive results from other areas and profit areas throughout the organization. Some of those are the clean natural gas plants, Flynn, BG, transmission, others. So all good news on that front. This just gives you an idea of that. So as you can see, there was significant decline in where Niagara is compared to where they were in the budget. But thankfully it's being offset by good results out of at BG and the small clean plants, Flynn, and transmission slightly ahead. HTP doing a little bit better than that was expected at the beginning of the year. Favorable prices coming from that. So really, we're very fortunate that we were having these offsets from what would otherwise have been, putting us further behind plan, given what happened with Niagara. No other questions there. We'll move on to the full year forecast. So we're still really saying that we're on schedule to meet the end of the year targets. So all good on that front. By the full board meeting, we should have the April results. We're just about to close the books now. Nothing too exciting there one way or the other. We're pretty much on budget for April. So you'll see more of the same in the next couple of weeks. So all good news here. Any questions on that?
In terms of your bar chart there, Canals is included in your other, any surprises, any issues as we got through the winter at Canals?
Yeah, and you'll see in the release, Canals is we have a Canals year-to-date budget to actual, and that's pretty much on schedule and on budget as well. So they're doing. Let's see, we have it here. There we go. There we go. So as you can see, Canals through March 31st, pretty can't get much closer on budget than that, and we see the same through the rest of the year. So all's going well in Canals as far as that goes.
And no other surprises anywhere at this point, even as you're crystal balling, you're feeling good as you look ahead, at least for the next couple of quarters. Weather dependent.
Absolutely. There's nothing weather dependent. We have to see what happens in Albany as a result of the budget. There could be some things there that have an impact on us, some favorable, maybe some unfavorable. The only thing I think we got to keep our eye on is the legislature continues to make changes to tier 6. They call it fix the 6. So the more changes that get made there, the more expense will be for us on our pension expense. But we just have to keep an eye on that. But that's been a movement that has been going on, and I would expect that to continue over time. As you know, the state has seen difficulty in attracting and retaining employees. So this has been a big push from a lot of the unions and others to make tier 6 more attractive to newer candidates.
Okay. Before we move on, any questions of Adam relative to financial results, Louis?
I was just going to ask, Adam, how do you and your team think about, I know it's a smaller number relative to our other generation sources, hydro, for example, but natural gas prices likely to continue to be elevated. Just how do you think of, again, it's a smaller number relative to your income statement, but how do you think about elevated natural gas prices on the fossil side generation as you look at, the rest of 2026? Obviously, Strait of Hormuz is closed and about a quarter of the world's natural gas comes through there. And I haven't checked today what Brent crude is, but obviously pricing is elevated on that side.
Yeah, so it hits us in a number of different ways. So we'll definitely see increase in fuel costs where we have additional fuel costs. We were able to do a good job earlier in the year in managing those fuel costs. We actually made $10 million on selling our gas position because we had oil that we already purchased at a lower price, and we were able to benefit from that. So that's going to help us if we see increased fuel costs throughout the rest of the year. But on the flip side, historically, and still pretty holds that overall energy prices that NYPA sees in the marketplace are pretty highly correlated to the natural gas price. So when the natural gas price is up, energy prices as a whole are up. So in certain areas where we have not hedged or we have merchant exposure, we'll see a benefit from that, and that usually will offset any negative from additional costs of the fuel.
Yeah. And I know you and your team have been incredibly thoughtful how you think about hedging your positions on the course of the year. So I'll compliment you on that. By the way, Brent crude is down today, so it's $101 per barrel. So that's more positive today than it was 48 hours ago.
Yep, watch it every day.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
A couple releases, Adam, you want to cover for both canals and power proceeds?
Yep. So we want to get ahead of the third quarter release so that we don't get caught behind when we have the next board meeting. So we say we maintain our legal position of having to release the funds. So this would be for the third quarter for canals, and as we just discussed, that canals seems to be moving ahead the year, tracking to their budget and their targets. So no issues there about increasing the amount of release from where we sit today. The other one is the release of up to $60 million for the Western New York Economic Development Fund. That just catches us up on where we are based on what's been seen over the last year, months on amounts that would go into the monetized funds, and before ahead of any actual allocations to any particular applicants, but just to set aside the money that for future allocations at the EdPAP board.
What's the current fund balance in there, Adam? Do you know offhand?
It's about $100 million. So I'll get you exact numbers. Some of that it's getting trued up, but I'll get back with the exact numbers. So, but my last recollection is about $100 million.
Okay. Yep, meaningful, certainly to this region, this market. Okay. Fairly customary in both cases. Anybody any questions there?
On the Western New York bullet item, is it January 1, 2026 through December 31, 2026, or which one is the right? Because we have January, April 1, 2026. So I just want to make sure I understand the application here.
Oh, you're
If you
saying
read
that
it,
the typo in the
Should be
narrative.
January through April. I would take out the December 31st. So it's January through
Okay.
April.
Thank you. I figured that, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so we're crossing off through December 31, 2026. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good catch. Thanks, Cecily. Okay. Adam, contingent staffing contract award.
Yeah, so this is something we've been to the board for in the past. This is for our contingent working staff, that we bring in for project related work. As a good example is for our project Luminate, we brought in a lot of contingent workers to assist on that, either backfilling for certain roles where people left their day job to work on the project, or additional help on the project itself, as well as other projects throughout the organization where we need the temporary resource rather than a full-time resource. And so this contract was up its 5-year renewal period, and we received a significant number of proposals. 10 suppliers were selected. 6 of those are new to us from the last time we had the contracts, or those that are expiring. And of those, 2 of those are diverse suppliers as well. So we feel we got a good response and we have a good stable of contractors, and this is for 5 years for an amount not to exceed $69 million.
Suggesting you're thinking you need 10 to 15 million a year. Is that the premise? Or
I think that's right. Yep. Yes. It's pretty constant.
okay, I was just gonna say, as opposed to riding some roller coaster ride, this is just to earmark a general pool that you deem sufficient to support projects over at least what's known at this point, right?
Right. And this money has already been budgeted for, so it's not a new cost.
Yep. Yep.
This is more of a contracting issue versus a spending issue.
All right, and great to hear you've been able to attract new firms. Obviously, diversity is always important, but terrific to know that there's ample opportunity in the marketplace to engage a broader spectrum. So well done. Any other questions on that one?
Just briefly, Adam, do you know if any of the new suppliers went through or participated in any of the programs that we've done, at least in the last 2 or 3 years, to encourage new suppliers? I know we've had some shows where people could come and ask questions. And do you know if any of those people participated in any of NYPA's programs to help them get in the queue? I guess is the best way to put it.
And that is a good question. And off the top of my head, I don't know an exact number, but certainly we can get you that information. But we do, when we do these supplier diversity events, we have a big one coming up. We do cast a wide net. So I would be surprised if there weren't some of the people on this list at those events.
Thank you. Just curious to know, if our efforts at reach out are bringing people into the queue. Thank you.
Yeah, great question, Cecily. And I said at a minimum, it's just great to see further diversification, literal and figurative, of the pool of partners that we're able to draw from. So, unless there's any other questions, I'd ask for a motion to recommend the 3 items: the release of funds for canals, the release of funds for Western New York Power proceeds, and the funding in support of the contingent staffing contract award. They have a motion to recommend those to full board for adoption in 10 days.
So moved.
Thank you, Dennis. Have a second.
Ooh, that was Mike. I'll second.
Oh, Mike, sorry, Mike.
That's all right.
And then
You did your
Cecily
best.
has a second.
All right, way to go, Mike and Cecily. Thank you for the correction. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, thanks very much, Adam.
Thank you.
And, great to see the ship is steady, so very well done. I've got 2 items in the utility ops arena that Timothy Poe will bring forward to us. The first is Massena Canal Dam, and the second is related to the BG Visitor Center upgrade. Timothy, as you're in the program.
Thank you, Chair.
Podium is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. All right. Good afternoon, trustees, NYPA colleagues, and members of the public. I'm Timothy Poe, Vice President of Project and Construction Management. I'm here to present 2 items today. The first is a request for increased funding to an existing value contract associated with the Massena Canal Dam project. We are requesting that the Finance Committee recommend the approval of an increase to the Luck Brothers value contract funding in the amount of $9.6 million to the Board of Trustees. This request is driven by construction-related risks that have materialized during execution. The Massena Canal Dam was constructed by Alcoa in the early 1900s and is part of the St. Lawrence River water management system. The authority acquired the Alcoa powerhouse as part of the purchase agreement for the St. Lawrence Power Project. The 577-foot long facility was partially decommissioned in 1958 because the authority was replacing the need for this power plant with the authority's Robert Moses Power Dam. At the July 2024 Board of Trustees meeting, project capital funding was approved in the amount of $78.4 million. This project falls under the joint works agreement with the Ontario Power Generation, resulting in a net obligation for NYPA of $43.4 million. And as reference, OPG's obligation is $35 million for the project. The primary scope of work for this project and this specific contract includes the removal of the remaining steel superstructures and the partial demolition of the concrete substructure. The project also includes the infilling for the purpose of providing long-term stability of any chambers, galleries, draft tubes, and tail race passages that will remain with the partially demolished substructure. Ultimately, the remnant substructure will be covered with capping material, at a finished grade, topsoil, and hydroseeded. Additionally, at the July 2024 meeting, the subject value contract was approved in the amount of $55 million. To date, we have issued approximately $9.8 million in change orders through internal approvals via NYPA's expenditure authorization procedures. This was primarily due to additional asbestos abatement that was found to be needed, and those change orders were issued based on the contract unit pricing that was in place. As demolition of the existing structure had progressed, additional asbestos containing construction and demolition debris was discovered in areas that were previously inaccessible prior to award of the contract. The asbestos removal is necessary to complete the partial demolition, infill of voids, and capping of the existing structure per the existing New York State DEC beneficial use determination. Open bidding of the additional asbestos and waste removal was considered by the project team, but deemed unfeasible due to the resulting potentially 6 to 8 month delay to construction schedule to perform the solicitation and onboard a new vendor. In addition, Luck Brothers subcontractor is listed as the asbestos contractor in the variance submitted to the Department of Labor. Therefore, a new variance would have been required to have someone else perform that work. This request for $9.64 million in addition value contract funding is required to address the additional asbestos abatement and waste removal still to be done, modifications of the downstream rock berm through some of the winter conditions this year. We had some washouts to the design there, additional concrete infill, and modifications to the ice sluice design and construction as outlined on the slide. With what has been approved to date, plus this ask, the total change orders would be from the original authorized to be $19.5 million. The asbestos abatement scope of work was determined to be O&M, therefore does not impact the project's capital budget. With approval of this change order, the project team will allocate a portion of the previously approved project contingency to the construction costs to cover some of those other risks I've mentioned. Which this represents, for us, a planned, disciplined use of our contingency and a good balancing of the project books. Thank you. I'll address any questions you may have.
So the original project was 55 million. It's now 75 million. And more than half of that is asbestos abatement cost. I got it or no?
The original contract, yes, was for 55 million, and it is with this request would be 75 million, 74 million and a half. Of those, that 19.5 million in change orders, 12 to 13 million of that is associated with the asbestos that we're finding at the site.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
No, but I did a tour of the site with the local people, and it's a big job. This is a big job. On an old dam, and So that's
Okay.
a lot of it they're finding because they started the project, and in doing so, I think they just discovered, as Timothy pointed out, more and more when you dig down and you go through the layers of, I don't know how old it is. Is it 100 years, Timothy? It's an old building, right?
It was built through a few different phases, but ultimately goes back to the 1900s. So we're at 125 years
Right.
old at this point.
Right. And there were different parts to it. So one of the comments you made is when you dig down, you find more. Well, yeah, because there were different parts to it. And back then construction was way different and the rules were way different than they are now. But I'm glad I took a tour of it because I understand a lot more about the whole construction project.
Well, Cecily, can I ask you for a motion to recommend this item to full board for adoption?
Sure, I will
Right.
move that.
Can I have a second, please? Louis got a hand up. Second for Louis. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thanks, Tim. On to the BG Visitor Center. Little upgrade and improvement here.
Right. Our second item is I'm presenting a construction contract award for the BG Visitor Center upgrade project. We are requesting that the Finance Committee recommend approval of a 3-year construction contract to LaChase Construction Services based out of Rochester, New York, in the amount of $22.1 million to the Board of Trustees. In addition to this base contract award, we're requesting that the Finance Committee recommend approval of an additional $1.4 million for a total contract authorization of $23.5 million. The additional authorized funding is intended to cover potential construction costs associated with identified risks with the project related to the deteriorated building conditions, material costs, environmental conditions, and potential hazardous material management. The Blenheim-Gilboa Visitor Center is a recreational asset of the BG Pump Storage Power Plant that is required by NYPA's 50-year FERC operating license. The Visitor Center, housed in a circa 1881 dairy barn within the Lansing Manning Complex, was converted to the Visitor Center in 1974 and was last renovated in 1993. Many of the existing exhibits are from this renovation and are now irrelevant, obsolete, or non-functional. Additionally, the Visitor Center is not ADA compliant throughout the facility. The scope of work under this contract includes the restoration of the building, modifications to improve accessibility, and modernization of the exhibits. The restoration activities include structural repairs and reinforcement, weatherization, upgrades to the mechanical, plumbing, electric, HVAC systems, and fire suppression systems, and energy efficient lighting installation. The Visitor Center exhibit scope includes upgrades to the theater and installation of modern interactive exhibits consistent with the efforts completed at projects like the Utica Energy Zone and Niagara Power Vista. Construction is anticipated to begin this summer, and the entire project is expected to take a little over 2 years to complete. A request for proposals was issued last October, with 2 proposals being received in December. LaChase has successfully delivered on similar projects for NYPA, specifically as a control center project. Following an extensive evaluation process based on the criteria on the screen, on the slide, the evaluation team recommends a contract award to LaChase in the amount of $22.1 million for a 3-year term and a full authorization of $23.5 million. Thank you, and I'll address any questions you may have.
Were you surprised to only get 2 proposals, Tim?
We were not. We were not, because during the bid walk down and during the RFP event, we did have a lot of participation there, but it was mainly subcontractors. So we weren't overly surprised with that. We've done our typical outreach through SSM, through procurement for the reasons why, and Mainly it's, getting to the logistics where BG is located and just capacity, right, from some of our other major prime contractors.
Okay. Other questions on this one?
Just
Laurie?
yeah, thank you. And thank you, Tim, for the presentation today. And, I've talked at committee meetings and board meetings before about the visitor centers and the important role they play in, really being a hub for the communities and the areas surrounding. And every time I've had the chance to go to BG, you see families and households from the community, but you see people who have traveled to come. And the educational component, the STEM work they do with children to honestly, having movies for free in the winter, providing that free, warm, safe space for people to go. It's so incredibly important for BG and the neighboring community. Their tie relationship, the tight closeness with, Minekill State Park, is really an avenue for school visits and field trips and the like. So, to know how important the visitor centers all are, and seeing this, knowing it's a historic barn and last renovated over 30 years ago, it's well loved. And so to put this commitment into the visitor center, I think is really vital for, elevating our work, helping the community, and just keeping that hub strong in that region of, the NYPA world. So really excited about this, thankful, to everyone who's gotten us to this point, and looking forward to seeing, what happens next.
Well said. Well, why don't you close by making a motion to recommend this item to full board for adoption, Laura?
Thank you. So moved.
Second. All right, there's a second there. Heard that. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Tim, thank you very much. Two good presentations, two good recommendations. So well done. All right.
Thanks, Tim.
A good day. Next up, consent agenda. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review. Really just relates to meeting minutes from our last little get together. If I could, I'd ask for a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
So moved.
Thanks, Dennis. Second, Louis. I'd jump in there. Appreciate that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, unless there's any other items or matters to come before us, that completes our meeting and wraps up our meeting agenda. We're next scheduled to be back together as a committee middle of June. Obviously, we'll be back together as a full board in 10 days or so in White Plains. And with that, I'm pleased to ask for a
Chairman,
motion to close the meeting.
Oh,
So moved.
Can I ask for a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Thanks,
Second.
Dennis. Second, Louis. Thank you very much. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, meeting is a wrap. We will reconvene momentarily for New York Renewable Energy Development Holdings Committee meeting. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for joint finance, NYPA and Canal's Finance Committee. Thank you.